Okay, I'm live. Didn't realize there was such a delay in the broadcast, so I apologize if I'm going to be a little awkward getting used to this. If anybody's watching. All right. And I have a low bit rate right now. Well, hopefully it's not too choppy. Anyway, so I've been working on an example program that I'm going to use in the HyperCard programming series. And it's an animation that you might be familiar with. Neko. I thought it was Neko. My daughter, who speaks Japanese, corrected me. It's Neko, which means cat. There was this, it's not really a screensaver. It was a toy that was used. I'm sorry, I'm getting a pop-up in studio. I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, don't worry about it. Anyway, it's a toy, sort of like the X eyes thing that you get in Unix, and a little cat would wake up and then chase your mouse around, your cursor on the screen. Very popular. It was on the Palm Pilot when I had a Palm Pilot. It's been in Windows. There's websites that have it, that kind of thing. So anyway, I grabbed the graphic files. Somebody had saved them and converted it over to a series of icons in HyperCard. You can set the icon for a button, and then you can set the position for the button. So you can animate, it's a crude form of animation. The other thing you have to do is there's actually an idle message that is sent to the card that you can use so that you could, every so many ticks, you could change the animation so that it would be, frames, and continuous. Anyway, so I'm working on that. I discovered that I'm missing one of the GIF files. So what I'm going to do is actually edit that file for inclusion so you can see how that works. Bear with me while I navigate to the subdirectory where I've got all this stuff. Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's under projects. Archintosh, graphics, images, and I believe I'm missing 10. So we're going to open that. Okay. So I'm using GIF converter. The nice thing about that is you can copy the graphics and drop them right into the icon. The not so nice thing about it is that I don't know why, it's got something to do with the conversion of the image. Everything is black in the background, so you have to go around and edit this and get rid of all this stuff. So it's a little tedious. Apologize for the wait here while I do this. I did this to 32 images, so you can imagine this took a little while. Fortunately, you don't have to click on each box. If you click on an area that doesn't have one, it includes it or makes it dark. So this is going to be a little tedious to watch. I cut off the whisker, so I'm going to have to add it back in. One of the things you can do in here is you can scale the image. So this is kind of nice. I can expand it a little bit. There. That way I'll be able to see what I'm editing. And figure out where to add the whisker back in. Oh, so that was a solid line here. I cut too much of it. It went down to there. And then a couple of icons up. And I believe that restores the whisker. Okay, for the pause. I believe that is correct. And we have the tail here. Nope, that block is supposed to be like that. Get rid of the corner. Get rid of that corner. It's basically like editing with fat bits. You don't have the drawing tools or anything. All you have is the pencil, so you can edit pixels. It can be a little tedious. Okay, got to go up a couple there. I believe that's symmetrical. Okay, do we have any extra blocks? Oh, these two. I want a skinny cat, not a fat cat. That looks okay. Too many there. And I believe that is good enough. Alright, so we can close this. No, I don't want to save it because I don't want to alter the image. I want to say there. Okay, so we open the button, go to the icon. I should be able to find it now. Ah, yeah, it's right here. Neko 10. So we've got 30, which is the cat sleeping, and then it's an animated sleep. So you actually have two of them here. Alright. So let's go back and see if the stack works. So I've got code that's tied to the... oh, I got some people in the chat. So, hello everyone. I'm sorry. I'm used to using the chat to say hello. I'm not even thinking about it. Hi. Let's see who we've got. We've got Retro Tech Chris and Retro Techie and Ron's Computer Videos. Cool. Thanks for joining. Hopefully it's not too boring. It's my first live stream, so I'm not used to talking while I do stuff. But anyway, so let's get on to it. So this stack has a card on it with an animated icon, and it's, you know, if you saw the preamble at the beginning, it's Neko. It's you know, Japanese for cat. And I've got some fields that I've added to the screen here that are debugging things, just so I can keep track of, you know, what state is the cat in, what the ticks are, whether I've got debug on or not. One of the problems that you have, I'm capturing the idle event and doing stuff. If you're trying to type into a text box while that code is running, it keeps stealing the icon away, or the cursor away from it, so you can't type into anything. So I have to do this debug thing in the code to avoid that happening, so that I can do things like edit the labels on the screen. It's a little annoying, but you know, it's just the way it is. You have these controls that you can do, and the finger control is what allows the program to run, and that's how you can type text. So I'm kind of stuck. So I can put the cursor in there, but it steals it right away. Anyway, so here's the sleeping state, and you can see it's got, well, you can barely see it because I'm using a VNC viewer for this, but anyway, it's an animated icon where it switches between, you know, it tilts the head up a little bit and changes the Z's on it. Get it to update the screen. Yeah, I'm going to have to work on, maybe the VNC solution isn't going to work for this. Anyway, if you click on the cat, it wakes him up, and then he chases your mouse cursor. So there's several to-dos I've got here. For one, I've got to fiddle with the speed. It's rather slow. When he reaches the mouse, it just sits down. It doesn't do anything. I need to do some icons for it playing with the mouse or devouring the mouse. I don't know. Maybe blood and gore for the adult version. Anyway, and then it determines the direction that the mouse is, so that it can pick the right set of icons for chasing the mouse. All right, here it's coming straight up, so there's a set of icons for that. And if you go down, obviously it goes down. If you move the cursor off the card, in HyperCard, you could actually tell the icon to just go ahead and go past the edge of the card and disappear. In fact, you can see right here, half of the cat is gone. But I've got code in there that'll stop it from running off of the edge. There's icons for animating it scratching on the wall, and it's got, you know, all four directions because it was designed for a box, a square window, and I'll have to add that code in so that it'll do that too. But this is what I've got so far. So let me show you some of the code. Let's go to the card info and script. Okay, it looks like the font's big enough. So essentially in HyperCard you can have global variables. So that is a variable that can be referenced in multiple places. The scope is global. It means the entire program can see that variable. Scoping for variables is a way of saying I've got, you know, the variable foo, and I use it locally in a function. If I happen to use the same name somewhere else in another function, it's not referencing the same variable, so you can do that. So Ron from Ron's Computer Video says, I remember getting a copy of Neko with one of those neat Mac tricks books back in the day. Yeah, it was really popular on a lot of different platforms. Like I said, my Palm Pilot had a version of it. Ron, doing this over VNC to a real Mac is bold. Yeah, I could be using Mini VMac, and I have. It does function, but man, I like using my real Mac. That's what I've got them for. I don't just collect them and stick them on a shelf. I actually use the things. So maybe that's why I don't have very many of them. But I also, I've got a 180C that I just recently recapped the video card on. And, unfortunately the memory for it is unobtainium. There is none out there. I might get lucky and find a broken down 180C that has memory in it, but I doubt it. But even with 4 megabytes, you can do HyperCard programming in it. You can even do it, from what I understand, with 2 megabytes in a machine, but you get down to 1 megabyte, like on a Plus or something, and it's really pokey. But it's possible to do it. I can remember doing it on a Plus back in the 80s. And that was without a hard drive, and you had to swap floppy disks. So that was a lot of fun. Anyway, we've come a long way. So, all right. So you got global variables. I control several things, like how far does the cat move on each, animation segment. So do I want it to move an entire icon's width? No, that's too far. It would look like it was jumping. So I can control how much I want it to do there. How frequently do I want to use that idle message? If you used it every time, it would go spastic. It'd be all over the place. But I want it to go at a certain pace. And if you look at the original version of Neko, it didn't move very fast. So I'm trying to get that nostalgic feel for it. So I've got an interval set at 20 ticks right now. A tick is 1/60th of a second, approximately. HyperCard does have a way of counting seconds that's more accurate, but it's also more computationally intensive, so it's better to use ticks. And for something like this, it's good enough. So, and then there's several globals I've got for, what state the cat is in right now. That's a global called Neko. And then state tick is keeping track of how many ticks since the last time you did the animation, so that it can calculate the difference and say, oh, it's been long enough. Let's do it. Anyway, and then one of the idiosyncrasies of HyperCard is the idle message that's sent from the system can't go down to the button level. It only goes as far as the card level. So I had to have a function, or rather an event handler, inside the card stack to capture the idle event and then send it to the button. So let's get out of here. There's not much going on here. And let's actually go to the button. So I've got the button tool right now. Double click on the button. Go to the script. So HyperCard's a little bit object oriented. You have scripts where you can add functions and events to a button or a field or something, so it's object oriented. The mouse up event is kind of the default one that you get with a button, so someone clicked the button. And in there, what I do is I say, well, if the cat is sleeping, wake him up and have him chase the mouse. If he is or not, if he's not sleeping, make him sleep. So if I click on him when he's chasing me, he'll stop. Let me show you how that works. So you go back into browsing mode, and he starts chasing you. I click on him, he goes to sleep. I click on him again, he starts chasing. All right, so let's go back into the code. Script. And when I get to the programming parts of the HyperCard course, and animation will be one of the sections we talk about, I'll go into a lot more detail and how to set up animation. There's basically 3 different ways to do it. You can animate an icon like I am here. You can use the paint tools to draw, copy, paste images. So you could have a little region on the screen with an image, copy it, or cut it from that spot, select it, cut it, move it, paste it, and you could do all that with programming scripts. The other way of doing it, and this was referenced in the complete HyperCard 2.2 handbook written by Danny Goodman, he mentions that a company, and I can't remember the name now, did an animation in HyperCard for Novell, and it was of a butterfly flying across the card and landing. And the way they did it was they used fonts. So they created a font with a huge character that was the butterfly in one frame, and then the letter B would be the butterfly with its wings flapping slightly, C, on and on. But that way you could do a really higher resolution graphic image and animate it by having a text field on the screen, and then you just change the character as you go off in time to animate it. And then you can also move and slide the field around on the screen. So I cannot find that stack. It was publicly available at a seminar or something, some trade show or something like that, and so far I haven't been able to find it. I'd love to find it. I actually, if you go to archive.org, they have over 3,000 HyperCard stacks that have been uploaded. A lot of the user groups, the Apple user groups, actually did a lot of that stuff and put it up there. It's not there. And I also have not found an animation example using a character set like that. And it's probably because you have to actually edit the font. And editing fonts is a little bit painful. Anyway, I intend to at least get some kind of a sample together for it. And I'll demonstrate those 3 different techniques when we get to animation in the course. So anyway, getting back to this. So I can click the mouse on it to start it up, chasing me, or to put it to sleep. Here's that idle loop. So this receives the idle message every tick. So every 60th of a second, this message is sent to the card. I don't want to do everything every 60th of a second. So what I do is I subtract the current number of ticks from where I had stored the number of ticks before, and if it's greater than the interval I've set, then I'll execute the code. Otherwise, I just let it pass. So I check the state, and I say if he's sleeping, do the sleep event. This is something else. You can write events, or event handlers, I should say, or you can write functions. If you do a function in HyperCard, it must return a value, and you have to call it that way. So it's a little annoying. If you were writing it in C, you would be able to pass void, and you could define the function accepting void, and you could just call the function with empty braces. So I create events if I'm just going to do it like a go sub kind of a thing. And then awake. So if he's awake, I do the awake handler, and if he's chasing, I do the chasing handlers. That maintains the state and handles that. All right. Here we're getting to sleep. So what I do, and this is another HyperCard idiosyncrasy, I can look at the icon and I can see what the ID is, or excuse me, I can look at the button and I can see what the ID value is, but I can't tell what the name of the icon is. It's a really weird thing. You can set it by referring to the name, but you can't query it to find out what the name is. I don't know, they just never implemented it. And something else that's odd, me is a keyword that refers to whatever object is sending the message, so that you could do generic coding. I don't have to refer to the button by name. I can just say the icon of me, and I'm checking to see if it's this ID. If it is, then I set it to Neko 30. If it's not, to 29. And that's the two states where it's got a little bit different Z's for, and the head's nodding a little bit between the two images, so the cat is sleeping. And I check to see if it's not sleeping. So say it was awake and I call this function, I want it to be in the state sleeping, so I actually change it. And then I put the current ticks into the global state tick so that I can start that interval again, and in 20 ticks I'll do another animation. Alright, so similar for awake. If he's awake, I randomly decide whether he should go to sleep or scratch. And I set the probability pretty low for each one. Otherwise, he's constantly doing something, and if he's sleeping, you want him to, or rather if he's awake, you don't want him to do it very often. I don't want him to go to sleep constantly. But if you let him sit there for a while, he'll go to sleep. Scratch is a series of icons. First he sits, scratches high, scratches low, scratches high, scratches low. The wait command is how many ticks you want to wait before you execute the next statement. That way it's not scratch, scratch, scratch. It's scratch, scratch, scratch. Anyway, you get the idea. Let me show you something here. So we'll go back in and we'll set them up. Let's say you want to test out some of this stuff. There is a message bar, message box, I think is actually how it's called. And what I can do is I can send can I send that message? I should be able to send Neko scratch to card button. Okay, so this should send the scratch message. There you go. So now he's scratching. So this message box feature is a really nice way of being able to kind of like do immediate statements where you could set variables, you could query the stack. So now he's sleeping again. So if I wanted to do a different message, I think it's wake, or is it awake? It's awake. Now see that message, I probably, it's not Neko awake, it's something else. And it ignored the message because there's no handler for it. So if we go back to the code info, and it's a little tedious. You can't have multiple windows open and do things. You kind of got to go through the motions. Of course, I looked at the card. That's not what I wanted to do. I want the mouse cursor. There are tools that are available for HyperCard, so you can like print out the entire stack's code and things like that, so you could look at it. But go to the script for the button, and okay, what was the function? Oh, wake up. So that's why I didn't do the message. So let's try that. Wake up. So we'll send that message to it. He's waking up. Now it's going to go through that idle loop. It randomly picked that he should scratch. Now he's yawning. He's going to sleep. So if I fiddled around with the probabilities, I could have him do it less. He would just sit there and not do anything. But cats like to sleep. There you go. Oh, what else can I tell you about this? We're in at 30 minutes. I don't want to go too far. Let's talk about some of the stuff I've got to do yet. So I did mention earlier that at this time he just runs into a wall and sits there. There's icons already for scratching the wall, so I've got to set that up. Yeah, autocomplete. Man, do I love autocomplete. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I got back into HyperCard programming. And it's like, where's the manual? I need the manual. I can't remember what it is. There are some references in the home stack for scripting and commands and all that, and you can search for them. So there is a manual of sorts that's online, and you can go through it, and on your computer, and you can go through it and look. I tend to use the physical books. It's old school, but it's the school I went to, and I don't know. You guys probably don't remember back in the day before the internet. You went every month or every week or so to the magazine rack at Borders or someplace like that to see what the latest programming magazines were all about. And then you also perused any of the new books, trying to find a book on whatever it was you were doing. And that was Stack Overflow. You didn't have the internet or anything where you could go look. Printed manuals for like the C programming language would be a stack of manuals. When you bought software, you got a heavy set box full of manuals too. Those were the days. I used to read Dr. Dobbs' journal religiously and subscribe to it. So I was a heavy C programmer at the time. 1-bit fever dreams. Think C has a think manager with searchable fields. It's a godsend. It would rock if HyperCard had a similar thing. Yeah. I think some people have done some developer add-ons for HyperCard so that you can do that kind of stuff. I wonder if there's an XCMD or something like that will do pop-ups for that kind of thing. It'd be interesting to see if there's anything like it. Could you imagine if you had that kind of editing inside HyperCard? Computer Shopper. Yeah, I used to get Computer Shopper all the time. Mostly so I could drool over equipment I couldn't afford. But Microtimes, yeah. So he messaged interrupts instead of directly programming ones. Yeah. Anyway. What were we going to do? I lost my train of thought talking about the old days. Maybe we should just sit here silently and dream about them. Oh, to-dos. Okay. So I have a habit of sticking to-do in my code. Chase animation. So I've done the chase animation, but I'm not quite happy with it. One of the things that you'll notice with this is the path it takes when it chases you and you're not. So if you're on an angle, it's fine here, but if you're doing it sideways, well, I get it just right. Oh, that's right, I did correct this. When I first wrote it, it was so precise about the difference between the mouse and the cat that it was jagging up and down on an angle to get across the board. And it was because I was going at a pixel precision. So I changed it to do the width of the icon. So as long as it's in the general width of that, it'll just go straight across instead of jagging up and down as it goes across. So I already fixed that code. And it does do things at a 45-degree angle. It's got a set of icons for that. So the detection algorithm has a bit of a problem. There it goes. I'll have to look into that. Anyway, so getting back to the code again and the to-dos. All right, so chase animation. Change the mouse to a mouse cursor. You can control the cursors and set them, and you can create custom cursors in HyperCard. So, and you can make an animated cursor. So you could do your own spinning ball of death, or do a pocket watch instead of the watch, you know, whatever. But I could do a little mouse animation. Be very tiny, but you could do it. Let's see, what other to-dos I've got in here. Oh, add top, bottom, left, and right wall scratching. We already said that. That's it. That's all I've got in there. So that's pretty much it. It's still got some, you know, some more to go. If anybody has ideas, things to do, like what should it do if it catches a mouse? Maybe they should have a tea party. I don't know. That'd be interesting. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for joining. This is Eric's Edge, and I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you on the next video. So, bye all.